Home Minister Shah's big pledge on Naxalism.
31 मार्च 2026 के पहले हम भारत को नक्सलवाद से मुक्त करा देंगे, ये मेरा विश्वास है.
Vows to end Naxalism by March 2026.
जो सरेंडर होते हैं उनका स्वागत है और अंतर को बदला जो दूसरे की जान लेते पर ही हमारा है, उनको सजा देने का काम भी करता.
Amit Shah meets former insurgents in Chhattisgarh.
आगे किसी को अपना परिचय न गंवाना पड़े, इसका एकमात्र रास्ता है तो नक्सलवाद को समाप्त.
Can centre put a halt to Naxal menace in India? That is our top focus on 5 Live.
Now, the Naxal menace may not be in the headlines every single day, but until about 10 to 15 years ago, it was called India's most serious and biggest internal security threat. It's something that has festered in the central part of India for over 50 years now, denying development to many parts of central India. The Home Minister Amit Shah now saying that by March 2026, Naxalism will be brought to an end is a hugely ambitious promise to make. Take a look.
31 मार्च 2026 के पहले हम भारत को नक्सलवाद से मुक्त करा देंगे, ये मेरा विश्वास है.
A pledge to end Naxalism within the next 14 months by March 2026. A huge promise by no less than India's Home Minister. He's talking about a left-wing menace that was once described as India's biggest internal security threat. Speaking at Agenda Aaj Tak on Saturday, Shah provided a basis for his ambitious promise.
आज बिहार निकल गया है, झारखंड निकल गया है, उत्तर प्रदेश निकल गया है, मध्य प्रदेश निकल गया है, कमोबेश महाराष्ट्र भी निकल गया है, तेलंगाना निकल गया है, आंध्र प्रदेश निकल गया है, ओडिशा निकल गया है, छत्तीसगढ़ के 2 जिले बाकी है, वहां पर भी भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार आई है.
A day later, the Home Minister flew to Chhattisgarh's Jagdalpur, a hotbed of Naxalism, where he met a group of former Naxals who had surrendered and are now engaged with the security forces in anti-Naxal operations. Shah repeated his promise there.
जो सरेंडर होते हैं उनका स्वागत है, वो भी हमारे लिए हथियार छोड़कर मिनिस्ट्री में आ जाते हैं तो अच्छा ही है. नहीं होते हैं उनको अरेस्ट करने का प्रयास करते हैं और अंतर तो बदला जो दूसरे की जान लेते पर ही हमारा है, उनको सजा देने का काम भी करता.
Promising to end Naxalism is no small pledge, given the scale, spread and intensity of the Naxalite Maoist insurgency, which began in the 60s and has seen its most violent phase in the quarter century from 2000 till now. Since the turn of the millennium, across central India, 2,688 security personnel have been killed in action fighting Naxal groups. The period seeing 4,515 Naxal casualties and over 32,000 Naxals either surrendering or arrested. In the year gone by, security forces killed 287 Naxals, arrested 1,000 and witnessed 837 surrenders. For a menace that has stalled development in several districts of central India for half a century, are these really the last days of Naxalism in India? Bureau Report, India Today.
March 2026 is 14 months away. That's hugely ambitious for the Home Minister of the country to make a promise at the Agenda Aaj Tak conclave to say that Naxalism is going to be completely wiped out. It's going to come to an end in just 14 months from now. But what do the experts believe? You've heard what the Home Minister has said. Let's get a real-world assessment by those who look into these matters very closely. Joining me live, Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain. He's former General Officer Commanding of the 15 Corps, also a member of the National Disaster Management Authority and a commentator on these issues. Prakash Singh is former Director General of the Border Security Force, and Major General Dhruv C. Katoch is author of the book Naxal Violence, The Threat Within. He's also Director of the India Foundation. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with me here on India Today. General Hasnain, I'd like to kick it off with you. 14 months seems like a terribly short period of time, but clearly progress has been made. Even though the media doesn't report every single thing that's been happening as far as the Naxal menace is concerned. How does this seem to you, sir? Amit Shah saying by March 2026, Naxalism will be brought to an end.
Shiv, thank you, first of all, for having me on your program. A very important program, I must say. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think the Home Minister is known to make any false promises. For him to come up and give this statement, obviously the inputs and the parameters, the factors at work at the moment are all there which give him that confidence. And I think they generally do give confidence to a lot of us security analysts who are observing this situation. I would say from a high of about 250 districts out of the 750 districts of India, there's almost 1/3 of India which was under the shadow of so-called the red corridor,
yes,
or Naxal terrorism. You today have just in your program shown us how it has come down to 2 districts primarily of Chhattisgarh. Most of the other areas have been cleared. Now, it's a very important aspect that as you clear these areas, you also ensure a consolidation, because in this kind of a game, everything can come back very quickly.
Yes.
I can see that the government of India at the central government level has done a tremendous amount, but at the same time, it has decentralized it to the states. This entire campaign of the last couple of years has been fought by a lot of state police forces which have been professionalized to
Indeed.
a great extent. The central forces are there. The CRPF, BSF, ITBP have been there doing a great job. Intelligence has definitely been improved, and there has been an induction of technology in the last few years, in particular, bringing in drones, bringing in mobile devices, eavesdropping capabilities, etc.
Yes.
And to beat it all, the leadership, the targeting of the leadership, and also going after the youth in terms of social media
Absolutely.
activism, ensuring that the radical, it's not just the radicalism which is in Kashmir. There is a huge radical footprint here too. And that radicalism has to be countered over a period of time. This has been going on across the states. I would give a tremendous amount of credit to the state police forces and the state home administrations, which have, I think, achieved some outstanding results.
Okay, interesting. So you're saying that, you don't believe the Home Minister would have said it, without being very serious about that target. General Katoch, if I could bring you in, is this sounding realistic to you? It's been confined now to 2 districts in Chhattisgarh as per the Union Home Minister. Does March 2026 look like a credible deadline to you, sir, for ending the Naxal menace, as he put it?
Thank you, Shiv. Shiv, I personally, I'm not a believer in putting deadlines onto an issue, something like Naxalism. I remember way back in 1967, the then Chief Minister of West Bengal, he made this statement. He says, "I have finished Naxalism from the state." And we know what happened for 50 years after that.
Yeah.
So, but there is a sense today that Naxalism is to a very great extent on the decline. And why I say this is because I have met many people who work on the ground with the Naxals, and they are desperately reaching out for an agreement. They want the center to come and say, "Listen, do something for us so that we can actually have some sort of an honorable exit from where we are." So that shows that as far as the ground is concerned, where the Naxals are located, there is a sense of despondency in those ranks that they are not going to win this battle.
Interesting.
So psychologically, I think the state has won because this is a very important aspect.
Yes.
The second aspect, I think, is, there has been a lot of pressure put on, General Hasnain spoke about the people with the guns and all that. Very frankly, I haven't really given them much credence. The people who we need to really tackle are what has been referred to as urban Naxals.
Right.
These are the chaps who are sitting in the corridors in Delhi and other places who give oxygen to this movement, and they are funded from abroad also. I think a great deal has been done to curtail their activities.
Yeah.
And that is another positive sign.
Okay.
Thirdly, I think the most important thing which has taken place over the last decade, or in fact, I would say over the 2 decades, is a great deal of political penetration has taken place in these areas.
Important.
I have written in my book, this is one point that as and when political penetration takes place, Naxalism and such activities decline.
Okay.
Because now people have somebody to speak to, somebody who's answerable to them. And when there is no presence of the government there, these movements actually shape up.
Okay, very important.
So
you've painted a detailed picture of why you think Naxalism is on the decline, and you've also, presented an important point about how the Naxal groups may be looking for some kind of a dignified or an honorable exit. Will that happen in the next 14 months? Prakash Singh, how do you see this, sir? 14 months is the deadline. General Katoj says he is not very comfortable with deadlines, but yes, this is looking realistic.
See, I would like to recall that in 2010, Mr. Chidambaram also said that Naxalism would end in the country in another 2 years. That was the target which he set for himself.
Yes.
Although he was not very specific about the month, but he said within the next 2-3 years, Naxalism would be over. And 14 years down the line, we are still struggling with the problem. See, please remember that Naxal problem, as we are having it, has different components. There is a law and order aspect, there is a social aspect, there is an economic aspect, and there is some extent a political aspect also. Now, you are presently tackling the law and order manifestation of Naxalism. And you say that by eliminating the Naxals, you'll solve the problem. Now, eliminating the Naxals is not going to solve it may solve the problem of violence, but it will not solve the problem of Naxalism.
Right.
See, the ideology behind it. What gave it inspiration? What gave it motivation? What led? What has contributed to this 15 years long struggle? Those causes need to be understood, and unless those basic causes are eliminated or at least minimized, if not eliminated, we will not see the end of the problem. And please remember that twice before in the past, the government of India announced from the house top, the way Mr. Shah is doing today, that yes, Naxal problem is over. Okay. Once it was in 70s when the movement was fragmented following the death of Charu Mazumdar. And secondly, when in the late 90s, when Kondapalli Sitaramaiah got killed.
Correct.
Then this people's war is finished, and so Naxal problem is over. And yet in 2004, we found the movement resurrected and with greater vehemence.
Okay.
Now, please remember that the movement has had 2 revivals, and every revival was more violent, more widespread, and it was more lethal.
So that's an ominous point raised by Prakash Singh. General Hasnain, to bring you in on that. Revivals have happened twice in the past. This is not the first time that deadlines have been articulated in this manner. Do you believe that things are different this time, and that real forward movement has happened in such a way that things will ensure that there is no revival of the Naxal menace?
See, Shiv, in one respect, Mr. Prakash Singh's views, General Katoj's views, hugely. But let me tell you, not as a counter, but as a different opinion, that what we are talking about 1967 and maybe 1980s and the 1990s is with the experience of counterinsurgency, counter-terrorism of those days. May I say that 40 years later, you have got much more experience. You know how to counter this. We have seen what's happened in Kashmir. We have seen what's happened in Punjab. We successfully countered that. Our overall education and awareness levels in the security forces and the national security system is that much more enhanced. And I think, therefore, the comprehensive approach which the government of India has been making in the last couple of years is something which was alien in those days. To a great extent.
Okay.
In the sense, the aspect of winning hearts and minds, the politicization, the outreach, the availability of social media, the empowerment of youth, economic development, infrastructure development. Where did we hear of these things in those days? So today, I think when the Home Minister of India sits down and makes these statements, I don't think he's talking from the top of his head.
Okay.
He has obviously been briefed well. He knows it. He's aware. He's been the Home Minister of India for the better part of almost 6 years. And I think I tend to believe that there is great credibility in what he says.
General Katoj, would you concur with that there's a lower risk now maybe of a return to that same kind of situation than earlier? Or do you think the government still needs to tread with extra caution over the next 14 months since it has set this deadline for itself?
No, there is absolutely no doubts that the government has to tread with extreme caution.
Yeah.
But a resurgence, the way it used to take place earlier, I don't see it on the ground. It is not going to happen. Eliminating the problem completely, I think that is where the real challenge lies.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the villagers, they've got to say, okay, this is not the way we want it. The social media, as General Esrena said, has played a very great role, because now people can actually, they are in touch with their administration.
Yes.
Earlier, there was no presence even of a police officer or a forest guard in those areas. And even if somebody was there, that chap was much more exploitative than otherwise. Today, that reach, the reach and the reach of the state has gone deep inside the villages, into the areas where it was never there. So that has made the difference, which is why it's going to be a difficult proposition for it to rise again. Ultimately, I think both the state and the center will have to work in very, very close coordination.
Correct.
Because things can go south.
Yeah.
I don't think they will, but they can. And should that happen, then it won't be as bad as it used to be earlier. But it may not lead to, getting a complete solution within a year or year and a half.
Okay.
But one thing I am certain, it is on the decline, and day by day it is declining further till a time will come and it will just disappear. So whether that's going to take place within 14 months from now, or maybe 20 months or 24 months, I can't say. But this decline, the decline of Naxalism is certain, and you will find the important thing is not what is happening in the villages.
Yes.
It is what is happening in Delhi. And you don't see that, that focus of these of the urban Naxals there now, which used to take place even a decade earlier. So to that extent, I think the signs are very positive. But Shiv, as I stated earlier, I personally will never give a time frame to a movement of this nature.
Okay,
Shiv.
understood. And, thank you, gentlemen, for this very substantive look at what the Home Minister has said. I'm out of time, but I value your wisdom and words very much, because this is, as a former Prime Minister had called it, the gravest internal security threat. It's good to hear from people like you in the business that may not be very true anymore. And hopefully the end of it will be in sight, because let's remember that this is our land. Naxals are ultimately Indians. This is our territory, and it needs to be handled in a much more long-lasting, sustainable and different way. If March 2026 is what the Home Minister is saying, let's wish him well and let's hope it can be achieved. We'll be tracking every step of the way. Thank you very much for being with me. Remember, today is December the 16th. It's Vijay Diwas. It is on this day that we celebrate India's incredible victory in the 1971 war. That historic win over Pakistan, the liberation of Bangladesh, and our tribute to the bravest of the brave, over 2,800 Indians who made the supreme sacrifice to birth a new country. Sam Bahadur and his men, we salute you. This Vijay Diwas.